So amazing.
And if we weren't in cinemas right now, this woman wouldn't have been able to muster an audience to specifically book out that cinema at that time. And that's what's interesting about our cinema model compared to a lot of others. We're being responsive to the audiences who are hearing about it and may want to put on special screenings, and working with exhibitors to do one-off screenings in cinemas all over the country, as well as working in community auditoriums and universities such as here at Bond. So we are being very, very hands-on as distributors. And from a filmmaking point of view, that means that we're getting double bite, I suppose, of any revenue stream. As producers, we're way down the pecking order to get our money back for the work that we put in. But as distributors, we're able to take a commission on the way through for all the work we're doing right now, absolutely legitimate work, rolling out the film to bring money in for the investors who've put up money for this film originally. So it's a choice we've made, but we think right now for this type of film, it's the best way of engaging with the audiences and highlighting a problem, and at the same time sustaining us as filmmakers, bringing in some revenue streams.
Of course. Well, we've mentioned now that it had been on television before the theatrical campaign. If you could go back and plan to do the whole thing again, would we start with a cinema release?
Well, one of the difficulties of financing documentaries in Australia is that television is the major way and the standard way of financing. I wouldn't do it that way again. I would hope that with the reputation and the credibility that we've built around the burning season, that I would be able to finance a documentary directly through a cinema distributor. And we have in Australia now, we have a model called the Producer's Offset, which is it's a financing possibility if you go directly to cinema, that makes that model actually possible. So it's a challenge to try and create a documentary that doesn't have television investment in it from the beginning. So I would like to try that.
I'm actually already in that model with another production that we're rolling out currently. And it'll be really interesting to compare that documentary, which is based through the cinema offset, as opposed to the television way that this burning season was structured. So it'll be really interesting because I think there is some element in terms of the television, even though that revenue stream has essentially dried up currently because we've made a new version of the film. But I think that it's played a role somehow in terms of its acceptability, the fact that we're not cannibalising the audience. We don't believe the same people who watch TV watch cinema. So in some respects, it would be nice to have a model that you could do either. We've got two separate models here. The other documentary that we're in production with currently is raised primarily through a feature film model, with 40% of the revenue raised through the producer offset, and the balance of it will be from various other financing sectors, and that will actually have television as one of the exploitations later. Hard to say whether it will actually end up doing any better in the long run. I mean, hopefully both models will work, but I think this is an interesting one that we've done.
And we're getting a second bite at the television model because we've just been approached by B Sky B in the UK who were interested in this film. We've also been approached by other cable networks that I can't name at the moment because we're in discussions with them about taking this film and putting it back on television. We have the whole Asian market. We are translating the film into Bahasa Indonesia for Indonesian television. So I think there is a television outlet for this new film, so we can have television, cinema, television. You know, so
why not?
Yeah, I think everything's open right now in terms of how a film like this, which is very much of its time in the zeitgeist, was probably a year ahead of its time last year, and I think in America it's probably next year's film, because America's really only just kind of waking up to this whole thing. So I think it has a long life yet.
And also, if you understand that a lot of television documentaries are played once, or they may be played several times, but depending on the way they're told. For example, the BBC version of this film was done in a current affairs voiceover, wasn't using Hugh Jackman's voiceover. It was a very different version of the film, and arguably it isn't going to get played again on British television as you know, even though they've got the right to keep playing it for several years. So we're hoping that we can get all parties together and they understand that this new version of the film is something that they can have a piece of as well, and that we're all better off sharing in this new film and rolling that out. So yeah,
As well as
interesting
sharing in
times.
Hugh Jackman's dulcet tones.
Exactly. They want that. Well, they should have you on their TV screens. Well, they're everywhere. You know.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
a great export.
We're very much pioneers in the way that we're doing this, and like any pioneers, you try things and you've got to push boundaries and, you know, just explore. So we really are exploring every possible way to get this film out to audiences.
Awesome. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you very much.
Trish.
Lovely.
There we go, Film Fanatics. Kathy Henkel and Trish Lake. The film is The Burning Season.